guys, welcome to Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. I don't know about you, but if I was going to go roughly 2.5 miles down under the surface of the ocean to 400 atmospheres, which is basically 400 times the amount of pressure that you feel of the air and gravity and all these things on your body, 400 times that. If I was going to go that deep, I probably wouldn't want diversity hires to be making the craft that I would be going down in. But a billionaire, one of the billionaires that is missing, he hired diversity hires because he didn't want a bunch of old white men to create a submarine, apparently. Now, to give you an idea of how deep that is, so if you're here on Earth and you go into the vacuum of space, that's a difference of 1 atmosphere. Now, I believe the first 30 feet deep, and it's been a long time since I got my PADI scuba diving certificate. I think the first 30 feet is about 1 atmosphere. And then from there, I forget what the depth is. Maybe it's every 30 feet. From there after is another atmosphere. I forget exactly what it is. But I'll tell you this, even going down 3 or 4 atmospheres is crushing. To go down 2.5 miles, you better have your crap together. Well, and you know, and a lot of people are saying, oh, this is a tragedy and this is horrible. And why? Because there are 2 billionaires on board? Because, you know, there's 4 or 6 other people or however many went down there? Like, there's more people than that drown in the Rio Grande trying to cross over into the United States daily. Or that number of people that end up, you know, not making it coming over in life rafts from Cuba. You want to feel bad for somebody, feel bad for those people. I don't feel bad for a bunch of rich people that decide to jump into a diversely made sub and end up getting crushed. Maybe that makes me an a-hole. I don't, whatever. Missing Titanic submersible live updates. Search expands exponentially, more sounds heard. They've got, now why do they have Coast Guard and all these people going crazy trying to find them? Because there's a couple of billionaires on board, and it's a very click-worthy news story. Again, we don't want to talk about, you know, what's going on at the border. Shh, that's got to stay out of mainstream news. We can't talk about everybody losing their lives doing that. That went, nope, just forget about it. Plus, they're not billionaires, so who cares, right? That's sarcasm, by the way, because somebody will yell at me. Underwater noises were detected and rescue efforts were expanding Wednesday in the search for the missing submersible carrying 5 passengers to the Titanic wreckage site, a Coast Guard official said Wednesday. So they're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to find 5 people. And if you wonder why that makes me so mad, it's because we've got so many other catastrophes and problems with law enforcement in Chicago where, you know, 22 or 25 or 40 people are shot every weekend and little kids are getting ended and all this horrible thing, and they're just like, no, nothing to see here. But five people, 2 of which I think are billionaires, get lost on a submarine, and it's all hands on deck. It's just, if you don't believe we live in an oligarchy, I don't know what to tell you. An expert submariner from the British Royal Navy, a team of French specialists on remotely operated vehicles, and more ships and underwater vessels were joining the search. The search was expanding exponentially across a surface area roughly 2 times the size of Connecticut and 2.5 miles deep. There's enormous complexity, and we're doing all these things for these rich people. Each ticket was $250,000. So all 5 people on board were very well-to-do. Well, the guy that ended up doing this whole thing, the OceanGate CEO, he admitted in an old interview he preferred to be inspired in hiring decisions in lieu of hiring experienced mariners. So instead of hiring people that know what they're doing, he wanted to be inspired and hired young people to teach them what to do. Let's check in and see how that turned out. Oh, yeah, they're still missing. Okay. In an extraordinary, although sadly unsurprising interview, Stockton Rush, CEO of OceanGate, the company currently in the news for having lost a small submarine of tourists on a joyride of the sunken Titanic, told Teledyne Marine his employees are not 50-year-old white guys who may have had military or other Marine experience. Rather, He went with younger, inspiring employees because anybody can drive the sub. Well, how's that working out for you? This is from Catch Up, the CEO of OceanGate, blah, blah, blah. Here's the actual interview clip, I believe.
Listen to what he talks about. The CEO talks about hiring people.
Yes, I mean, when I started the business, one of the things you'll find, there are other sub operators out there, but they typically have gentlemen who are ex-military submariners, and you'll see a whole bunch of 50-year-old white guys. I wanted our team to be younger, to be inspirational, and I'm not going to inspire a 16-year-old to go pursue marine technology, but a 25-year-old, who's a sub pilot or
if you're just listening, they're now showing a woman sub operator who looks to be in her 20s.
A platform operator, one of our techs, can be inspirational. And so we've really tried to get very intelligent, motivated, younger individuals involved, because we're doing things that are completely new. We're taking approaches that are used largely in the aerospace industry, is related to safety and some of the preponderance of checklists, things we do for risk assessments and things like that are more aviation related than ocean related. And we can train people to do that. We can train someone to pilot the sub. We use a game controller, so anybody can drive the sub.
Well, it's not turning out so well. So either the 6,500 pounds per square inch, which is what, about 10 millimeters? 65 pounds per 10 millimeters, which is twice what my concrete floor that is meant to hold tractors and cars and everything else. It's twice the pressure that it would take to smash that to pieces. Well, something went wrong. He says, when I started the business, one of the things you'll find, okay, that they're just basically restating what he said in the audio clip. First, they say, oh boy, where to start? First, the submersible is still missing, and as Streff pointed out this morning, the trapped explorers, including the 61-year-old Rush himself, may still be alive. Hey, you know what? Props to him, at least, for not only being the CEO and the designer of this craft and wanting to hire the diversity. He put his hands, his own life, in their hands. Their young 22-year-old female hands with a Amazon video game joystick. So at least he put his money and his life where his mouth is, so there's that. Because they say here they had an Amazon joystick and blah, blah, blah. And they say as horrifying as that is, Rush is really tragically just a man of his time. Current Western culture has been embracing the insane idea that age and skin color are somehow useful in determining quality of work experience. And as absolutely ist and phobe as that sounds, it's nonetheless happening everywhere, fueled by the push by the DIE, corporate boardrooms and academia. A recent high-profile example comes from the form of Lieutenant General Deanna Burt, Space Force's Deputy Chief of Space Operations for Operations Cyber and Nuclear, who recently suggested she sometimes uses factors other than skill, qualifications, and experience when considering people for employment. And I'm not going to read her whole speech, but she also said, well, if somebody's from Florida, because of what Ron DeSantis did in Florida to Disney, she may overlook that person because they're from Florida. That person has nothing to do with what Ron DeSantis did. Well, he might have voted for him. You never know. This is the craziness. And, listen, if I'm going to be honest here, I do feel bad for these people in the submarine. This would be, in my opinion, probably the third worst way to go. I think the first for me would be burning. The second would probably be drowning or freezing to death. The third, or fourth, or whatever, imagine you are stuck in this little sub and it can't propel itself anymore, and maybe you can't use the oxygen to give it some buoyancy to bring it back up to the top, because you have to vent the air tanks, into the bladders. And if you do that, maybe you don't have enough air to get back to the surface. And so you're stuck. You can't open the door. It'd crush you instantly. It'd just turn you into soup. So all you can do is sit there for the last 90 hours of air that you have and hope somebody finds you. In the meantime, you're suffocating Probably don't have enough water to drink because no one expected to be down there that long. And you just go to a grave in a little tiny tube. That would be awful. I do feel sorry for these people. I don't, I'm not happy that anybody gets hurt or gets ended because, something goes wrong with this. But these are also tourists. They're not down there exploring or doing scientific work. They're a couple of billionaires who had this project, almost like a hobby type project. That sold tickets for $250,000 a pop to very successful people. And the world is going crazy trying to find them, and it's a news of the century, a story of the century. In the meantime, we got problems in inner city, Chicago, other crimes, people getting mugged, people, minorities crossing the borders and immigration and all that stuff that are not making it. But because they don't fit the narrative, or because it's not click-worthy on a headline, it doesn't sell newspapers because, as they've always said, if it bleeds, it leads. Those people are ignored, and it makes me so angry. It makes me so frustrated. It's the same thing with them lying about, the tallies in the Ukraine-Russia thing and how many people have been ended and what's going on with all that. They don't want to talk about it because it doesn't fit a narrative and it doesn't allow them to push the agenda. So they just never mention the hundreds of thousands of young men that go off to battle and never make it home. It just, man, that bothers me so much. So there you have it. When you don't hire the best and you hire for other reasons, and because it's a guy or a girl or young or, brown or yellow or whatever, here you go. Another example of what society, and when this gets to the point of engineering and bridge design, and we've already seen what it does in movies, we see what it does in advertising, thanks to Bud Light and Target. When it makes it into the math, when it makes it into engineering, that's when things are going to continue to fall apart. And that's why I think more companies are just going to move to AI. And then they say, you know what, we can't be blamed for not being diverse enough, for this enough, for that enough. It's a computer. Don't yell at us. You can't hold us to blame. Guys, if you are here on YouTube, make sure to join us over on Locals. I'm going to continue on with another story we have of AI finding conservative women more attractive and happier in photos. And I got a couple of fun other videos that I'm going to share over there. So make sure to come over to betterbachelor.locals.com today.